Namaskar and good evening, everyone. This is Ankit Khandilwal, and I welcome you all to the Reinventing Schools webinar series. The teaching tools have been evolving ever since. The educators are ensuring effective learning in students now more than ever. How this learning should be assessed, what transformations are required, how do we do this effectively? Let's seek the answers to such questions as we will be ideating, debating, and discussing on the topic report card of the new normal. This is the third webinar of the 12th week, and I am very much excited to introduce all our panelists. Since it's the high tea time, I would also like to know how our panelists are spending this time nowadays and what is brewing in their cup. I believe tea during lockdown is like picnic indoors. So today I am having my tea and I am waiting to seek a lot of knowledge from all our educators. So let's ask our panelists about their favorite hot beverage and let us know whether they like coffee or they are a chai lover. To start with, we have Neha Sharma Madam, Principal GD Goenka School, Rajnagar. She's a strong administrative professional holding masters in education, skilled in mentorship, educational technology, life skills education, instructional design, team building, and strategic planning. She is passionate about the idea of happy schools with TQM to build and nurture 21st century skills in students. Ma'am, how do you spend your high tea time and what is brewing in your cup today?
Thank you, Ankit, for letting me share my cup of tea. And for me, it's like nice, aromatic jasmine white tea with tulsi honey.
Oh,
And it has got nothing to do with COVID. Green teas, white teas, and infusions are, they have always been my thing.
Great. So moving to our next panelist, we have Mr. Ashok Pandey, Principal Director Alcon International School. During his long career of 30 years, he has worked with many prestigious organizations such as Mayo College, Ajmer, Delhi Public School, Jammu, and Indian Embassy School, Saudi Arabia. He's a respected opinion maker, and his views on education are widely respected. He has authored several articles, research papers, book reviews on subjects related to education, teacher development, and technology. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Please let
thank
us
you.
know what is your
Thank
energy
you.
drink today.
Thank you, Ankit. I have always been a lemon tree premi, as I call it. And during COVID, people have advised that you should increase the consumption of lemon. And that is exactly what I am doing these days. So, cutting down on sugar and increasing on lemon. Thank you very much for a lovely
Great,
piece
sir.
of interaction.
Great.
Thank you, Ankit.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Moving to our next panelist, we have Mr. Kunal Badhu from Kunskap School and Schools. Mr. Badhu is one of the key person instrumental in bringing Kunskap School into India. He also runs a charity, the Navyug Nirman Charitable Trust, that works for the underprivileged in a number of areas. He has a master's degree in international accounting and finance from the London School of Economics. He is also a qualified chartered accountant from ICAEW in the UK and has worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers LLP London. Mr. Badhu also manages DPS Abohar and the Millennium School Karnal. So, Badhu sir, what is brewing in your cup today?
Well, I mean, I think it's that time of the year when it's just too hot, I guess, uh, for me. So, and during, I think, the times that we are in, I think the good old water kind of helps me sort of, keep my thoughts very clear. So, so I don't have anything hot. I do keep like uh, a cup of or a glass of or a bottle of water at room temperature, and I keep sipping it on, and that's what I'm
Great,
doing
sir.
now.
Great. Moving to our next panelist, we have Pratima Gupta ma'am, Assistant Director, Sunbeam Group of Schools. Pratima ma'am, she is the person that Sunbeam Group associates with dynamic group leadership with care for all, has been instrumental in bringing a number of changes in the pedagogy and theology of Sunbeam Group. Having psychology and psychiatry at the core of her heart, Mrs. Gupta has been able to introduce a completely different perspective in understanding problems of the adolescents and in establishing understandable connect between youth and their parents. So, ma'am, how is Varanasi today and what is brewing in your cup?
So Varanasi is pouring cats and dogs. We have had incessant showers since the morning, and my cup has this wonderful concoction of lemon honey ginger tea. I swear by it, COVID or no COVID, and this is a perennial favorite. And if you were to visit the Ghats of Varanasi, I would treat you to one such wonderfully steaming hot cup, and I believe you would never ever want to part ways with Varanasi.
Great, great, great. And lucky you, you have showers today. We in Delhi are waiting for it. Okay, so moving to our next panelist, we have Dr. Sarvesh Naidu, sir. He has a doctorate in education from the USA, a master's degree in English literature as well. A teaching and administrative career spanning 41 years has given him vast international experience in varied type of schools, whether it be boarding, day, Indian, international, established, new, co-educational, or single denomination, and four different curricula: IB, ISC, CBSC, and British. An ace mountaineer and a Ranji player, Dr. Naidu is currently the executive director of Pathways Schools. A very warm welcome to you, sir. What are you having today in your cup?
Thank you, Ankit, and good evening to everyone. Like you mentioned about my cricket, I'm a perfect all-rounder. So the mornings are always a good cup of filter coffee. And after 1 o'clock, anytime is good high range or Darjeeling tea. And nighttime is always some kind of herbal tea. So you see, you're very diplomatic and you keep everyone happy. And like a good all-rounder, you don't miss, if you miss one of these, then you compensate with the other.
Great, great. Thank you. A very warm welcome to all our panelists and a very warm welcome to all our audience also. I would like to know that how many educators do we have in the audience? If you are an educator, please write yes in your chat box. Quickly come. Okay, so we can see a lot of yes coming in the chat box and we have a lot of educators amongst us. तो मैंने कहीं पर पढ़ा था कि शाम की चाय और गुरुओं की राय समय समय पर लेते रहना चाहिए. So let us also take a rai from our audience, and today in this era of technology we'll take this rai through technology only. Can we have the poll on the screen? I would request all the audience to fill the poll and answer the questions in 30 seconds. So Dr. Naidu, what is your preferred high tea time?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, great. Pandey sir, what would you prefer during high tea?
Right now,
Currently you are having,
yes,
I have heard, but what regularly, if you have a choice?
absolutely, 5:30. Yeah.
Great, great, great. And Kunal sir, where do you, again, you are having water and it's too hot, but if you get a choice in between the given options, what would you love to have during high tea?
I like a double shot of espresso.
Great, 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 great. Pratima ma'am, where do you regularly take your high tea, at school or at home?
Five-ish at school.
5-ish at school. Okay, that's great. Now let us see what our audience have to say. Can we have the results on the screen, please? Okay, so 5 to 5:30 is the most preferred high tea time. Classic tea is what our audience loves. And 92% of the educators, they take their high tea at their home. Wow. So now, without any further delay, I would request Neha ma'am to kickstart the conversation, set the agenda, and take us through the panel. Neha ma'am, over to you. Please unmute.
Yes, I've unmuted. And yes, so hello everyone. Welcome to the Result PEM, Principal Educators Meet, organized by Rockspot. And here we are to discuss the report card of the new normal. Now, if life is a movie, we are watching or rather participating in the scene just before the climax, when everything looks bleak and a sad song plays, and soon James Bond will chase the villain, code named COVID-19, in FBI circles in a brake screechy car, toppling fruit carts, jumping traffic signals, and after some solid dushum, we all can walk off into a peaceful, lovely sunset. Well, We all are waiting for that lovely sunset. And as optimistic as we all are, for sure, we'll soon watch it together. And now for the session today, I would like to share my perspective rather than knowledge, which I strongly feel with all bright, shining stars from the galaxy of education here as panelists and as the teeniest of the star, both literally and metaphorically. I must not dare to, and get bold on a duck. Just updated by Ankit, we also have a Ranji player in today's expert panel. So I seriously would not like to get a run out here. And well, even before Y2K happened, we had started discussing about 21st century skills, how they should be developed, and the future belongs to them. And today's schools, we have students who were born in 21st century, but we teachers from 20th century are teaching them using 19th century methods and modes. And here it is. The century decided to give us all our tests, which she named COVID-19. And like a stern, no nonsense teacher told all of us, you better pass this exam, else you're out of the system. So all she's trying to do is check our learning and internalization of 21st century skills. And as we do in our formative and summative assessments as a school, let's all hope and pray that COVID-19 is the summative and not the formative assessment. Now, faced with an overnight change in how education is delivered, teachers and students are expected to adapt to a new situation, new technologies to be learned, ways of teaching and learning to be explored, the newer ways, time management, communication, and collaboration. We are now expected to employ all skills which we discussed as future skills in present times. Now, students and teachers today more than ever will need and will have to navigate the shift resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic by independently resetting goals, adapting quickly and applying whatever they have learned till now to solve new and novel problems. Skills such as commonly known as 21st century skills, and during these changing times, the ability to demonstrate these skills may make the difference between success and the failure. Or as Darwin Uncle said, survival of the fittest, which today will be possible for those who are fit not just physically, but also emotionally, socially, cognitively, and spiritually, who have their AQ, as you know, a new word going around, adversity quotient, also in place along with IQ, SQ, and EQ. Also, making the shift to support these learning approaches requires structural, social, and cultural changes in our schools. So this shift requires innovative thinking, creativity commitment, and deliberate action. Now, in these unprecedented times, it's up to us as educators to use these difficult circumstances to take the next step forward. And in developing these skills and preparing for education after COVID-19. And actually, this will decide what grade that we'll get and how well we'll do in these testing times. And as Sir Winston Churchill can be credited for the saying, never let a good crisis go waste. He said it in mid 1940 as they were approaching World War II. And now it is time for us as lifelong learners to make super use of COVID-19 crisis to become outstanding valedictorians. And I think this is what we have to talk about. We just don't have to talk about the report card of the new normal. It's basically a report card about all of us. So as we all have to get ourselves in place, and hopefully we all are prepared to come out of this situation in great grades, outstanding grades. I think this is one thought that I would like to share. And definitely we'll have a lot of thoughts about how to rethink examinations in this period, how to approach, college admissions, where syllabus has already been reviewed and relaxed by CBSE for this session, then what is going to be the road ahead for the class of, this session, this 2021, wherein, I mean, the children are really, really getting upset sitting at home. They're for more than ever missing out being with their teachers. They have started kind of loving their teachers so much. I still remember whenever I'm taking an online class and if I'm in school, children always ask me, ma'am, please एक बार campus का चक्कर लगाते हुए पढ़ा दीजिए, बहुत दिन हो गए हमने school नहीं देखा है. And this is actually telling कि how much they are missing the school. They are just, I mean, if I give them this opportunity कि ठीक है एक दिन आ जाओ, I'm sure all of them will enter the school gate without even taking permission from their parents. They're so desperate to come and visit the school. So I think we'll have now views from Dr. Pandey, Dr. Ashok Pandey. And with Dr. Ashok Pandey, all I can say is that, if we have taken alphabetically the panelists, we'll have lot which Dr. Pandey will have to share from his experience and with his wisdom that he has accumulated over these years. And definitely it's going to make something little difficult for rest of the panelists to kind of showcase their 21st century skills for newer idea. So over to Dr. Pandey, and we are all eager to hear from you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Neha. I wish your movie had continued for some time more. It was so engaging and it was so interesting the way you weaved around the whole thing. But I pick up the last sentence. You said that I have accumulated a lot of things from the past. So I think the first thing in the report card is that we have to neutralize the past and we have to relearn the new things again. And I think that is one mantra for all of us. You also said that it is not only about report card for the students, it is also the report card of the teachers. And you also quoted a lot of things like no crisis should be wasted away without learning something new. I think if there were no great wars, we would not have known about great war heroes. And if there is no very difficult public crisis, we would not have known about great statesmen. So similarly, I think this crisis, if it was not so, probably the present generation that we are talking about, they will not have the opportunity to remember 10 years down the line, who are my great teachers? And who are the great teachers? So they will remember the one teacher or the teachers who connected with them emotionally. The teachers who inquired about their difficulties, the teachers who inquired how is life going on in your family and around you. And the teachers who will be remembered by these children are those teachers who did not worry much about mathematics and science, but more about who built their resilience, who showed kindness, and who showed empathy towards them. So I think these are the parameters on which the report card of the teachers will be prepared. But having said that, let me take this opportunity to congratulate the teaching community. They have done a heroic job. They have intrinsic motivation has been love for the children and empathy for them. And they have been very courageous. All my life, I thought that the teachers are very meek community and teachers are very docile in nature. But this COVID has shown that the teachers are absolutely courageous. And what evidence of this courage we require then to see that the teachers put themselves up into the battlefield of virtual classrooms, putting them up for scrutiny, for discussion, for criticism, for their performance appraisal, and on-the-spot feedback. And imagine who did it, not their bosses, not their supervisors. It was an absolute 360-degree of appraisal, where the parents, maybe the relations, the grandparents, the children, and that is where the courage of the teachers lie. So I think overall, the report card of the teachers will be A+. And now we have to come to the report card of the children. And here we have to apply a lot of caution. And so far, we have done only one way of report card making, and that is what we call traditionally paper and pencil or paper and pen test. I think the challenge for all of us is, can we conceive something which has nothing to do with paper and pen? And what would be those? And those will be a nice spread of flexible assessment methods, more of formative assessment, less of summative assessment, assessment through presentation, assessment through audio and video presentations, assessment through group work, assessment through incredible investigatory projects that children can do, and we can see what were the effort, what were the initiative, what were the value inputs, how they use their agencies. I think those are the things that need to be assessed, and those are the things that need to be graded. And two more things. One is, as a young child, one of my teachers, who did not have any of the very fancy qualifications, but he said that, look, when you are reading a book and you are making a note, and if you can make that note in the form of a question and answer, I think that is the greatest learning of all times. And when I grew as an adult and a young teacher, I thought that what my teacher told me in childhood was a prelude to open book test. And therefore, if you really want to test the children, give them an open book and give them some questions. Please read the book and find out a structured answer to these questions. So why not deploy open book test as well, which we fear so much? And the last thing is, Neha, you mentioned about the pedagogy and things like that. I have a suggestion to make. Before we take any lessons, let us have a lot of love for our children. Before we design any rigorous curriculum for them, let us build relationships. And therefore, before any grading, let us have a lot of grace and empathy for our children. I think the report card COVID will have a very, very golden, shining texture if you can bring in these things into it. Thank you, Neha. Over to you. Unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yes, I've unmuted.
Yeah.
Right. So I completely agree to what you said, and definitely we have to work on this idea of neutralizing our curriculum, because we cannot do the patchwork with whatever is available with us. We'll have to think afresh. We'll have to start anew. And definitely, I 100% agree to what you said about resilience and kindness in teachers. I think that's where, whether it's COVID or no COVID, I think a teacher connects better with the child when she's or he is empathetic, when the child feels that fine, she's someone they can go to without worrying about her being judgmental, just listening to them. So I think fantastically presented case, I must say, sir. And now let's hear what
Neha ma'am,
yes,
without moving further, before we move further, we have a poll. As I shared earlier in the webinar, शाम की चाय और गुरुओं की राय लेते रहना चाहिए. तो हमारे साथ कई सारे टीचर्स हैं. So can we have the poll again on the screen, please? So how do you think the examinations will be conducted in future? Kunal sir, what do you have to say on this? Please unmute.
So I really don't know actually, because over the last 3 months that we've been seeing, more than the school and the parent or the children, in terms of we haven't really been given the space to actually negotiate out what's right. It's just been one regulatory diktat after another. So it's really hard to say. I mean, me saying something would be pointless, because you have the state governments, you have the central government, and all sorts of authorities kind of. But if you ask me, if I was to have a say in terms of deciding, then I think a mix of what Mr. Ashok Pandey also said, that it's not about kind of testing learning in a very traditional or that draconian setting. I mean, if books are there, they can open their book. Let it be kind of like an open book exam, where it's more you're testing the application of knowledge rather than just producing reams and reams of uh, paper or answers.
Great, great. Pratima ma'am, what is your thought on this?
Combination, of course. You'll have to go in for a combination. It won't work otherwise.
So it
Because,
will be a. So
yeah,
you want to say that it will be a combination of in school and online examination. Great. Can we have the answers, please? Okay, so 80% of the audience also says that combination of in school and online examination would be the future of how examinations will be conducted. Great. Neha ma'am, over to you.
Right, but here I'll say whatever Kunal sir just said was very practical and very rational, and I think we should, instead of deciding everything for ourselves, leave some work to the government as well. And let's hear more from Kunal sir about today's theme, today's topic. So over to you, Kunal sir.
Thank you. So, good evening, everyone. I mean, first and foremost, I see that there are a lot of teachers and educators here, and I can just truly say, from the experience of the last 3.5 months, that I think the teachers and educationists are one of the unsung warriors of this COVID pandemic. Just seeing them kind of scale up, completely transform, and make learning kind of possible, to make sure that learning does not go into quarantine. I think it's kind of a commendable effort. So I also, as a parent, have been seeing the efforts put in by my own son's teachers also, as part of the school, having an opportunity to go in and visit different online sessions just to kind of see how it's going. I think it's truly commendable. And obviously, the journey has been challenging, because, as I said, we weren't prepared for this new normal. And I remember kind of us taking a prudent call to actually shut the school even before any government diktat came in, when we heard of the first few cases in Gurgaon. And we faced flack from some people saying, schools just kind of declare a holiday at the drop of a hat. They and obviously, 3 days later, everyone is aware what happened, and we're still in that lockdown phase. Similarly, when the online classes, we introspected and saw that this is going to be a long haul, looking at the experience of other countries, and one had to scale up. So despite kind of few discouraging comments from here and there on social media saying, oh, these online classes are just a gimmick, they are just a way for schools to kind of ask for fees, things like that. Hats off to the teachers who kept their morals high and worked through this, and kept themselves motivated. They've taken care of their house, they've taken care of their children, and taken care of those 25, 30, 40 children that they are responsible for. In terms of if I specifically talk about the report card, and if I was to specifically talk about our schools, now Kunstkapskolen came into India about 6 or 7 years ago, and if I share one of the key things why Kunstkapskolen, I decided to kind of get Kunstkapskolen into India, was just the way how the whole learning pedagogy was designed. And actually, for us, the transition in COVID has been very seamless. And the reason for that is that we were one of the first schools in the country to actually have a completely online cloud-based learning portal, which is a student-facing resource where students can actually work their way through different steps in each subject. Now, this actually was a platform that was developed first in Sweden, and then it kind of got adopted adapted by a few other countries also. And the whole idea was that, yes, the world was shifting to an online mode. I mean, we just saw that, okay, learning should not have any boundaries, learning shouldn't stop. So it obviously came to be developed as a very futuristic, model. But obviously, fortunately for us, I mean, what was supposed to be futuristic and the future has actually now come in terms of the pandemic that we are in, that online classes or digital education has become a norm. Now, in terms of the report card, what we have within our learning portal system is that when you work through each step or each topic, so we have rubrics for each and every task that the child is doing, which obviously in normal school days would the teacher every week would kind of assess the child's learning according to the interactions and assessments that were done, and rate them on that rubric. So I think for us, yes, it's the same thing that's following on now. It's not changed. Um, However, yes, in terms of summative assessments, where grade 6 onwards, where children would kind of sit, a half yearly and a final exam, also in addition to all the other learnings. Yes, that's obviously been for the first time that something like this will have to be taken through an online mode, and deliberations are on with between different people in the school in terms of what's the best way to do that. And as I said, that an open book combination or something seems to be a practical thing to do, especially when it's application of knowledge. So as I said, that we're all still trying to figure out what's the because from a time that we thought that in 2 or 3, it's just a 2 month thing, it'll be over, so we don't need to plan that much ahead. Let's just kind of try to get these lessons online, have some sort of learning happening, and then 2 months it's all going to be over. To now, I think we have a 31st July date that's already there, and then I think people are already talking about October, November. So I think different educators are collaborating even within our network to kind of see that let's be prepared if this is the new normal for this entire academic year. How are we going to go about it? And I'd like to thank Rocksport for organizing forums like this, where I think we can all share our ideas and thoughts and answers, and try to figure out and do what's best for our children. Thank you.
Great to hear the ideas that you have just shared with us, Kunal sir. And I can very interestingly see the virtual background that you have placed of Ikigai. And for the benefit, I'll say for the benefit as the word here of the audience, I would like to share with you that it's a beautiful concept, a beautiful Japanese concept, which talks about reason for being, that what exactly is your reason for being. So it's basically, if you are aware of the set theory, it's about the universal, the part wherein the love, your mission for life, your needs, your vocation, your profession, your passion, all of it comes together, and based on this you decide that what's your ikigai, what is your reason for being. And I'm sure your school is definitely kind of working on this idea. And when you're talking about the rubric based assessment and the way you are putting your children into things which are not making them kind of feel uncertain and unsettled in this COVID times is fantastic. So salutes to the work that your school is doing, sir. And I think it's one place that we all should be allowed to be and come and learn from. So thank you, sir. And now it's time for us to hear from Pratima ma'am. And I'm sure with Banaras, the beautiful description she gave about Banaras, my heart really is going to this place, and I really wish I could be there enjoying the shahs. So over to you, Pratima ma'am.
Thank you, Neha. Good evening, all. And well, I've had two eminent panelists speak, and like you had warned us, well in advance that once Ashok sir speaks and once of course Kunal speaks, subsequently people have little or not much to say. On my part, I would like to say that I have a contention with this very sentence, report card of the new normal. Now, the moment you say the word report card to an educationist, to a teacher, to anyone connected with the education fraternity, what starts dancing in front of their eyes or even in their mind's eye is a comprehensive summary of work that has been done by a student. And we immediately start thinking about ranks, positions, grades, evaluation, where you stand, how good are you. So my worry is that in our bid to generate the report card, in these times also, we as educationists, we as competent people, we as competitive people are going to get so good at it that even the new teaching learning process will end up being something equally stressful as the old learning process. You know, the dynamics will change only in terms of not doing it in real time, but in virtual time. But we will also start thinking along the same lines again. So I feel that this crisis has given us an opportunity to veer away from the standardized, routine, normative, and at times not really relevant kind of formats that we have been practicing for over decades. Now is the time to move away from report cards, for God's sake, and just get into the fray of enjoying the teaching learning process and the dynamics thereof. So, when we are approaching online teaching or online learning, by all means, get into it and devise ways and means that the dissemination of knowledge is done in such a way that the child comprehends or understands, but don't kill the joy of it. Don't kill the spirit with which the child comes again to a virtual classroom to learn something. Don't again reduce it by evolving rubrics or methodologies wherein again you are somewhere giving the child the basis for being compared, but the basis for being tested against someone else yet again. For once, let's keep performance pressure away from these modalities also. So for me as an educator, when you say that am I going to be generating a report card, I would beg to differ and say I'm just going to generate some kind of an index of enjoyment of learning, some kind of a meter which just allows the child to understand in a very self-directed manner how much has he enjoyed learning a particular concept and how much has he been stimulated to go beyond that and learn. And whilst we're talking about this, the other component of the sentence is the new normal. Well, I wish to submit that it may be new, but there is nothing normal about it. Let us not try and convince ourselves that not being able to hug a child, not being able to give a high five to your friend, not being able to, share stories on the back benches, or not being able to, exult in the victory of an inter-house competition is a normal. It's not. It's not. And somewhere we have to tell ourselves, or rather ask ourselves, what is more important, the content or the process? What is more important, the spirit with which a child is allowed to question or the way the child answers a question? I think when we are trying to go forward in these times, and when we are trying to, formulate ways and means to come out of these times and be forfeited in terms of taking up the challenges, if there be a time as a post-COVID, though that also seems kind of far away, let us not look away from the fact that though we are using technology, it is just a vessel for communication. It is just a medium for communication. The important stakeholders, even now, are the teacher, are the students, and it is essentially a people-oriented, it is a human domain that we are operating in, where technology is only being used to facilitate communication. Let us not get so carried away that very soon we start comparing which school has got the best tools to use for online learning, which school did very well in spite of the virtual classrooms. And again, we are back to square one when yet again the results come out, which of course the mayhem and frenzy is let loose this time. Who performed the best in the virtual classroom? Who were the toppers of the virtual classroom? So for me, no report cards, just the joy of learning. And definitely the struggle to hold on to a normal. Let's look for novelty, but by all means, let's work very hard to preserve normalcy. And for that, empathy, relationships, understanding people, reaching out, communicating. And you know what? You and I are the people who have to mirror that first. If our students have to be inculcating those virtues to go forward in life, then it's us, the people who are in the management, the teachers, the parents at home. We have to first live it. We have to first walk the talk. Only then will the little ones understand what 21st century skills really are. That's my submission.
I must say, oh wow, Pratima, and whatever you just shared was all direct dil se, and definitely,
From Banarsi, we operate with the heart.
yeah, and I do have some fond memories of Banaras. I just visited once, but yes, I remember everything that I did on that small little visit till date. Now, definitely, we must talk about, because as it is, things are very stressful outside. So let's spread some cheer around, and that's what whatever you just shared was doing. So thank you very much for sharing something so nice and lively. And I think we'll have a lot now to hear from Naidu sir. And over to you, Dr. Naidu.
Neha ma'am,
Yeah,
we
again,
will definitely, we are waiting to hear from Naidu sir, but before that, Sham ki chai or Guruon ki rai. So can we have the third poll, please? Okay, in a hybrid learning environment, do you think the parameters of evaluation need to change? Pandey sir, what do you have to say on this? Please unmute.
Absolutely, yes. Not only the parameters have to change, the entire thought process has to change. And, no assessment comes on its own on the horizon. Assessment is preceded by what you have done, what you have performed. So the manner in which we perform, I think the assessment should follow the same paradigm, right? So now in the hybrid model, in your previous poll, 80% of the people said that we are going to work both virtually and in person. And therefore, it has to be a hybrid of many things, a hybrid of synchronous and asynchronous learning, hybrid of cognitive learning and socio-emotional learning, hybrid of teachers' work and parents' work. So all these hybridization, so-called, has to be reflected in the assessment also. I'll be very delighted. There are almost 350 people on your platform now, and you not only conduct a poll, you conduct an innovation challenge, that how a new assessment can be done in which parents and teachers are collaborating to assess the child. You see, so it has to change. Absolutely.
Great. Naidu sir, what do you have to say on this?
It's almost a one-sided question, because the only answer is yes. And anyone who's looking at any other answer is going to become like COVID sooner or later. They will become a chapter of history, whether they like it or not. It's just a matter of time. So yes, the answer is yes.
Great. So can we have the results on the screen, please? Okay, so 97% of the audience, they say yes, and I think Naidu sir, they agree with you. So over to you, Neha ma'am.
Great. So, well, I think, Naidu sir, I'm reading in the chat box. Everybody's so eager to hear to you. I'm definitely not going to take time at my end. Over to you.
Oh God, this is what planting a little bit of fear and doubt in oneself by putting pressure. Good evening, everyone. Neha started quite some time ago by talking about one simple thing, and that was about James Bond. And everyone knows James Bond, and she was talking about a villain of James Bond, right? That's what you were talking about. And all the male members in this group today were all eagerly waiting for you to shift to the Bond girl and talk about the Bond girl, which you never came to. So that's the plight of most situations right now. We come to a certain point, but we never come to the final conclusion and the final answer. Here's my second plight, that I'd hoped that with a gray beard, receding hairline, and an age factor, I would have come to the forefront of the panelists in presenting. And here I am presenting at the end. But not to worry, because I think I'm going to reiterate what a lot of people have said, but also try and throw my own perspective into it from all the experience and things. So here we are. I'm using the same phrase, report card on the new normal. So I'm not going to throw new normal out of the window right now, because that is the mantra for the day anyway. If anyone here attending on the panel or otherwise is 40 years or above, all you have to do is go back to your college days, all right? And when you started working early and you were a client, you were actually the paymaster, whether you paid the fees or whether you were paying for various facilities and things like that, as you wanted your first telephone connection or you wanted your first scooter, whatever it was, all right? And in those early days, you were the client, you were the paymaster, but you were always treated as a culprit. You had to run around from pillar to post to try and get what was your right. Even the banks used to make you run and make you fill 20 forms and make you do all kinds of things just to be able to operate what was your money. And that was the reality in those days. But we have evolved. No one of our generation of those days ever thought that India would be what it is today. That sitting in one spot, you can pretty much operate and control your lives. All right. So times have changed, and change is really the mantra. The most important thing is that we have now become the owners. We are now part of the customer care. And that is how it is. There's greater respect. And that is really what has happened with the report card. That is what has really happened with the schools. We have to stop thinking that we call the shots and the students or the parents are the ones who will come running to us, beg, bowl, with a begging bowl, and whatever, plead, ask, and whatever. We have to stop thinking about that, because in today's world, the child is the star, the child is the performer, and the child is the focal point. And we have to be able to look at that aspect. And so the entire report card must be created for that. Earlier, every aspect of a report card was an elimination. You were trying to eliminate so that you can narrow down whom you had to select. But now, the whole aspect is shifting very rapidly to selection. You're now trying to select. So you may say, what's the difference between elimination and selection? It's between being negative and being positive. There's a recognition involved now in what the person carries rather than what the person doesn't carry or hold. And this is how we have to go forward. The most important thing, have the schools and colleges kept up with it? Or are we still thinking about the old mold of elimination? How to remove? And that is why we try and give awards to some people and eliminate a lot of them, saying you're not good enough to get an award. All right. And there are various processes in which we do that. I'm not saying it's evil or it's wrong, but that is how the process is. And the whole discussion is really about the new normal. So what is this new normal? What is the new real? The new real is something that you need to experience, not just do because others have asked you to do, or from old storylines, Hamare zamane mein, in our time, this is what happened, or history told you that. You have to experience it yourself. And that is how you connect. You have to become a part of it. You have to be in that experience. You can't just hear it from someone else. Rote learning is out. I mean, what are we going to try and achieve from rote learning? The last 3 months have taught you that anyone who has been relying on rote learning, the online system, the way the new learning is happening, is become meaningless. Now we're talking about, I think like Ashok was talking, open book tests, about referring, project-based, personal projects, give credit to people for what they're able to create and things like that. So that is a new normal. You recognize skills and talent and not prejudge that this is how we're going to judge you, this is how we're going to test you. And if you don't fit the bill, you're not good enough. Because what you're testing kids on is no longer valid, because that's not necessarily testing their skills other than a very narrow number of people. It is the coping with the unknown. All of us have been doing that. And if you're all smiling today, we're feeling bright, cheerful, and whatever, that is because we mastered with the unknown. Again, as it was said earlier, it is, no one knows what the future is going to be. 20 years ago, did we know that by the time we were 20 years older, India would have evolved so much into what it is today that we can sit in one room, one laptop, and pretty much do everything in our lives? We didn't even believe in it. And here we are, here we are. So forget about 20 years from now, 5 years from now, how are the children going to be able to cope with the unknown? What are we teaching them? What skills are we doing? Are we celebrating enough variety? Those days of cloning, of getting everyone to march according to one tune, one beat, one rhythm, is gone. Because the children themselves are saying, just look at on the TV channels, whether it's India's got dancing talent, India's got music talent, India's got talent, whatever it is. 3-year-olds and 5-year-olds and 8-year-olds are astounding you with performances and a level of confidence you and I never thought children at that age were supposed to have. Forget about having it. And for our own situation, it didn't exist. So opportunities have evolved. Do we recognize them? Are we mapping them? Are we mapping the journey of a person, or are we only obsessed with the end product? What comes out at the end? Isn't the journey very important in the whole learning process? And all the panelists have spoken about learning today, all about entrepreneurship. Just look at the entrepreneurs. Why are we looking elsewhere? Look at Rocksports. Rocksport itself has been an entrepreneur. They started with the adventure program, mapping it, organizing it, structuring it in a way where people hadn't even ventured into, and did a great job of it, and doing a great job of it, all right? And yet Rocksport has to cope with a new evolving trend where everything of what they've been doing has got grounded, and they have to start all over again and finding the new way. So the new report card, it requires courage to recognize the journey and map it. Schools must have that courage. They must have the courage to blend a predetermined curriculum, which will always come from a board, an examination board, you cannot avoid it. But how much can you bring of your own? Why are schools not bringing in enough of the curriculum of their own? And why are we not giving enough weightage to school-based work? CBSE has done it now, ICSEs have to do it. IB declared it in March, that they're not going to have written exams, they're just going to do it on all the school-based work that has been done so far. And the results are not bad. They're pretty accurate based on what the children are. CBSE and ICSE are going to do the same thing now. So why are we not evolving a system and putting more faith in what the children are doing right through the year, rather than being tested in a furious assessment in 2.5 or 3 hours right at the end of their journey? See what has happened to all these exam systems now. So we'll have to redefine ethics. We'll have to keep putting the trust on the people. That's where the ethics come. They will cheat, they will copy, open book, where's the originality and whatever. But if we bring in certain ethical values, if we bring in the whole idea of the pride and the responsibility in each individual, that what you do on your own is going to be valued more than how correct or wrong it is, that is when the ethics start. That is when the growth starts, all right? And finally, I'm saying that you must look at the data and analyze it and not put it into archives. Report cards are meant to be analyzed. They're not meant to be just reported and put away and no one acts on them. It's like the cricket matches that you have these days. 80% of what the fielders, batsmen, bowlers are doing Isn't the data that is being fed to them week over after over by the guy standing on the boundary line telling the third man a deep square leg or whatever, this is what's happening, you're pitching it here, pitching there, this batsman hitting it there, and whatever, and they come back and they modify it in the next over. That is what data analysis is all about. Are we doing it? Are the children getting that kind of a feedback so they rectify during the journey rather than find at the end of the journey that they made a lot of mistakes? And so this is really what a report card has to be. From predetermined expectations, you have to shift to recognizing special events. So here's my last point. If a child climbs a 100-foot rock face, again, rock sport speciality, all right? Do you give extra marks to that person, to that child? And so the overall grades go up a bit. Isn't that a huge achievement? If a child does an Arangetram in school, why is it not adding to the weightage of your grades? Just rather than being given an A or a B, why is it not adding to your total? Why is that not being recognized by universities at all? Okay. And if a child finds a solution, say to purifying water or to conservation of water, and comes up with a beautiful project, comes up with a wonderful app, or another child comes up with an app, how to find a charity center somewhere, an orphanage somewhere, or whatever. So right, like you can find McDonald's and you can Google it. You can Google these things and you can start helping and reaching out to people. You need to do that. Why will that not be a part of the overall assessment, a part of the report card? Why is it treated as out of the curriculum? All right. And this is really what we are. I think Piyush and team have taught us about how to create various aspects and bring a certain joy and a life and a courage into the lives of the people. And that is really how we have to. We must cope with adversity. We've coped with it during the COVID shutdown. We must now be willing to face the changes and go forward with that. The new report card has to be a focus of nothing but learning, learning, and learning. The better you learn, the more you learn on your own, and the more you can decipher it and give meaning, the better you are in your report card. That's how I feel it should be done.
Well, I'll just say one thing, and I'll here talk about what you initially said, sir, that why with all experience towards the end you are being invited. So here I'll share something on a very personal note.
No, I know it's, I'm going to...
Here, this you'll have to listen. So this is basically whatever be the spread in front of me, whenever it comes to my preferred thing. I mean, I prefer the one which is my favorite towards the end. So maybe if that logic works for you. So
Thank you.
Are always
Neha, you have to give a pause now. Neha, give a pause. So I know now who is your least preferred.
Oh my God. Well, we can settle this, Pandey sir, outside this webinar, because you, again, no, I mean, I'm seriously caught on the wrong foot again.
Go ahead.
We trapped her here.
Go ahead, Neha.
Good. And that's what I said initially, that I'm the teeniest and literally and metaphorically the least shining star of this galaxy. So by all means, I'm happy being caught by, people who are so wise and experienced as you all are. And definitely, we 100% agree to what you just said. And it's always time for us to learn, unlearn, relearn, and change. So we should always be happy and glad to adapt and embrace the change. And that's what we have to kind of look forward to all the time. And the description that you were giving reminded me of my favorite book, which was Toto-chan. It kind of, whatever you just shared, I could connect a lot with that story, wherein the assessments and the learning, it was also free-flowing, also child-centric, that even if we talk in our webinars, in our discussions about being child-centric, when it comes to ground, we somehow miss it. Maybe because of a lot of expectations which we have from the stakeholders. And I'm not going to list out the stakeholders because yeah, for obvious reasons. And I think it was a fantastic share from your answer. And Ankit, is there any more poll before I miss on it? I thought I better ask it this time.
No, no, ma'am. We are through with the polls. We would love to have the Q&A round now.
Right, and we have got fantastic questions here in the question answer section as well, and a lot of them are coming in the chat as well. But as we have formulated, we'll first take up the ones which are there in the Q&A section, and I'll just read it out what
We
they
will
are
also
in
be
there.
having a live question session, so we will give rights to two of the audience to come live and ask the question on the
Oh,
panel.
That's
wonderful.
interesting. I think that's a good idea. So are we doing that first, or we are taking up the
First,
questions
we'll
from the
take the Q&A questions, then we'll invite the audience.
perfect, perfect. And I think now it's time for me to choose who is the panelist who will be answering, or Ankit, you'll be doing that for us.
Ma'am, you please choose who the panelist who will be answering.
Again, I should not aim
Neha
for-
doesn't want to take risk this time. so, so you don't worry. You just raise the question. Probably
That's
we
right.
can
So
take.
one of us will raise a hand
Yeah,
and answer it. Don't worry.
Perfect, perfect. Sounds great. So this is the one coming from Mr. Arvind Singh, and he states that as we all know that parents are very much worried about the grades, percentage resulting students results, students take pressure on them. So what is the right way to make parents understand that grade is not going to be with him? Everyone forgets them after a year or two, but the creative thinking, values, ethics, which is going to be there, and with all that, he can change the society around him. I think a very valid question, and which all of us would like to discuss and deliberate upon. So let me see who is raising the hand up. Nobody is doing it here.
no, Sarvesh is ready.
Okay.
Perfect, sir.
Very briefly, I think with a little on the lighter side, but reality too, many more parents have become teachers because of the online instruction. They've been following meticulously what is happening in the child's lives, following the online instruction, and literally being in the classroom as such, in the virtual classroom. So they have understood more than ever before what the new learning is all about. So I think we already launched the thing of how the parents can be made to change, because this is not happening just with elite schools. This is happening with all schools, because online learning is happening in across every school. And so we already launched that. That's what I would say. Now we must build on it rather than lose that advantage.
Neha,
Yes, sir.
Neha,
Yeah.
I'll just chip in here and share
Sure.
one anecdote. Few years ago, as a principal, I received a letter from the International Admissions Department of Soka University in the US, and one of my students was recruited by them. And they wrote a letter to me congratulating me on the selection of that student, and mentioning that one reason that she stood out was that in her statement of purpose, we found everything straight and honest, and we did not look at the grade of the child. What more you have to say about that? You see, I think as educators, we have to convince the parents. And as Dr. Naidu said, things are changing already, and we have to accelerate the pace of change, and we have to tell the parents that the grades will lose their esteem as they go on the pathway, and that losing energy is to be compensated by the other skills that the children have to learn, which Dr. Naidu explained so eloquently.
May I want to add to that? This change will happen the day schools stop putting up on their boards 90% and above school toppers, and they put up the photo of a child, the picture of a child with the best Tiffin habits or the good Samaritan. Post examinations, when the parents come to school, if the school displays talk about this rather than toppers of the science section and toppers of the commerce section and toppers of the humanities section, that is the day parents and the society at large, plus the narratives of our stories, who are our heroes, not those who have achieved marks and grades and things like that. That's also important. But let us celebrate those average, simple, common people who have become heroic in times of adversity. When we do that as schools, I think that is the day the messages will go loud and clear to the society at large that values matter, ethics matter, goodness matters, honesty matters, small gestures of kindness matter rather than 99 upon 100 or 100 upon 100.
Well, I think all three of you have said beautifully what exactly is expected of a parent and from us as a system, as educators, as people leading the schools. Kunal, sir, would you like to add something to this?
Um, I mean, I think probably the three panelists before me have summed it up quite beautifully. Um, However, just seeing, I think my perspective has been more kind of, what can we practically do? Because, all these things that we are talking about, I mean, unless the system is to change, which will not change overnight. Because, marks, end of the day, yes, your universities are looking at your grades, your marks and things like that. Obviously, in the Western world, a few years ago, I did read a report on, say, Ernst and Young, one of the big four accountancy firms in the world. I mean, in the UK, they had done away with a graduate degree requirement for a job, a starting job in E&Y, and they said the focus was going to be skills and again other attributes that a person had, which would be kind of evaluated at the time of their application or interview. But unfortunately here, I mean, end of the day, um, it all boils down to academic rigor and grades. And I very much, as a father of a, son who's in grade 3 and is going through this system, very much hope that by the time it's time for him to, graduate out of high school, we're able to see some structural reforms as far as, our education boards and subsequently the universities are concerned.
Well, I'll say well said here, a very practical statement from your side, Kunal sir. And I really hope and pray that it happens to the generation of your child, that things change, because they haven't changed since, I'll say, 1923. There's a poem that Khalil Gibran wrote on children, which is one I love sharing with my parents. And I would take this liberty to just share a few lines from that poem, which says that your children are not your children. They are sons and daughters of life, longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. So the day our parents start understanding the idea behind which they haven't even after a century, and we as parents, see, I am mother to a 22-year-old, and I have seen that journey with us, with her. So as a mother, the kind of liberty that I used to do as a parent, when she decided after her 10th grade to opt humanities, the question came from her teacher asking that, do you really want to kind of take up humanities? What is your grade? And the child who was in those days with good 9.6 CGPA was really, really upset about this idea that why should I be taking science and why is my teacher asking this? So I think we all are a little flawed with our thoughts, with our ideas, and we have to correct ourselves so that we are able to give our children a better say future ahead of us. And we'll take now the next question, which Mr. AP Sharma is asking, that why are we talking only about academic report card? Please tell something about report card for skills learned, extracurricular activities, and character building ingredients. So who is going to take this up?
I think Sarvesh, this is our own AP, if I guess it correctly.
Yes, I'm sure it's him.
And probably he did not fully listen to what Sarvesh was saying. I think Sarvesh...
He was having a tea break at that time.
Yeah.
We can bring him live if you all want. We can bring him live and we can have an interaction.
Sarvesh's entire presentation was an answer to this question. Sarvesh, you can add something if you like.
No, I think let's ask the person who's asking the question. Maybe it'll be good to get a contribution.
Yeah. Bring him.
Can we have AP Sharma sir live? Can we provide him with the speaking rights? AP Sharma sir, good evening.
Good evening, very good evening from Doha, and all of you have recognized me correctly. And very nice to see on a personal note, 3 people from Mayo, Mr. Kunal and Mr. Ashok and Mr. Sarvesh, who were attached to Mayo in 3 different roles. My question was asked before Mr. Sarvesh Naidu spoke. You can see.
Okay.
Okay, he's escaped that one.
So this question is null and void now.
Yes.
My question.
Have to give him one more bouncer, Naidu sir.
My reframed question is now that let us talk about child-centered assessment also.
Yes.
Like let us child decide the self-appraisal on the basis of the data available and life skills and all other skills learned. Let child decide. Give him chance once in a century.
Yeah, I think Kunal mentioned about the rubric. And I think if you can bring in this transparency of letting the children know the rubric, and probably what AP is saying is that after, let us say the assessment learning part is over, and when we come to assessment, let teachers ask children which of this rubric you fit into. And I think by and large, teachers should agree to that. So that could be one way. Another way which I suggested is taking them into the fold of assessment is, how would you like to be assessed? If you cannot write a long answer, can you put up a presentation? Can you put up an investigatory video and we will analyze that video?
Yes.
Can you work with a buddy on this project and we will assess your contribution to this? So there are many formats in which bringing the children into the assessment process is possible, doable, and in any case, it is desirable.
Thank you.
Move away from just the written into various other ways of expressing yourself. That's really what it is.
Also, I feel the threat of being assessed, of feeling under the scanner, that has to be dissociated. Because somewhere a child's performance gets affected by the fact that whatever and however he performs is going to be A, judged, B, going to be compared, and then he or she will be slotted. So I think if as educators we can release him from that anxiety that the assessment is more self-directed, it is more self-initiated, it is how you see yourself rather than how we evaluate you, that I feel will to a large extent take away the fear of being assessed by a child, and they would volunteer more. That I perhaps feel that I'm not good at this, I wish to work on this more, I wish to learn this more. And I think true learning is going to be happening in that case.
Thank you. It was very, very answers and wonderful comparing Neha ma'am and Pratima ji, wonderful answer. I wanted to know this only because we are talking about 360 self-appraisal of principal, 360 appraisal of teacher. Let this time be the 360 appraisal of student, starting with self-appraisal.
Yeah. Thank you, AP, for your guest appearance.
Thank you, AP sir.
Thank you, sir. And well, we have got Sakshi Chabla here. Can we take, how many more questions can we take, Ankit?
Ma'am, I think last question, and then we'll have one more from the audience, and that would be
perfect. So this is from Sakshi, who's very actively participating both in Q&A and on chat box. So I think this is something we definitely can give an answer to. Every time a new topic or a new concept needs to be introduced to the children through these virtual teaching, as a teacher, I get jitters. Will I be able to deliver? Are my children going to understand and apply what he or she has learned. So I think this is the plight which every teacher is having right now, because even if they learn something about assessment during their B.Ed course or during various CPDs, nothing is working the way they were made to learn these days. So as teachers also, they become more like learners. And as Pratima ji just said, that anxiety has traveled to them also big time. So I think this is something which needs to be discussed here.
I would very briefly say, sorry, that was Sakshi or Sachi? Sakshi.
Sakshi.
Sakshi. So Sakshi, the sort of feeling and the thought you have is a very healthy one, actually, because as teachers or as educators, the day we walk into a situation feeling we are absolutely on top of the situation, we will have turned complacent and we will not be innovative anymore. And so that little feeling of being tested and being challenged is not a bad thing. And actually, when you encourage the students to test you out and challenge you, you're encouraging them to be learners too, and also being teachers. They are teaching you. Never in my 42 years have I ever gone into a classroom thinking I know it all. In fact, a lot of the times I've admitted to the students that they know more than me, and that why don't you share it with the class? And that is how it is, because it's a perspective, it's a concept that someone can do better than you. And so never feel discouraged or hesitant or nervous about it. In fact, you should feel excited about it. That's what keeps you going every day of your life.
I would want to say here, Sakshi, that there's something which is known as a good stress and a bad stress. Good stress is that which propels you to come out of your comfort zone and, like Mr. Naidu said, and not become complacent. And at the same time, you will be surprised if you share this with your students and tell them that, you know what, this is something new which I have been handed over, and I'm all comes with it. And instead of it coming from you, why don't you take a back seat and ask some of the students in your class to figure out how to go about it? You'll be surprised at how positive the environment of the classroom suddenly becomes. The children feel included, the emotional resonance within a classroom immediately goes up, and even on a virtual platform, you feel as if you are connected to each other. So that's very, very important.
I think definitely every teacher here must be resonating the thoughts that you have just shared, Pratima ma'am and Sarvesh sir, because we as teachers, the day we start taking ourselves as learners, life becomes so much more easier. It's easy for us to agree that yes, we also can make mistakes, and definitely would like to correct them, will like to get better, learning from everyone who is there, who is partnering with us in the learning process. So who is the next one coming up, Ankit?
Ma'am, so we will now ask the audience to raise their hands, and we'll pick from the audience that who will ask the question. So audience, can you all please raise your hands?
You can't even do fastest finger first here.
Okay, so we have Amrita Arora. Can we give speaking rights to Amrita Arora ma'am, please? Amrita ma'am, you are live. Please
Hello.
ask your question.
Good evening to all the distinguished panelists sitting over here. As the lockdown started, we the teachers quickly turned ourselves into a different mode, and we started the online teaching. The students also, with few hiccups here and there, they started following what we were doing. But there is still a little bit of section which is left out, those who don't have the access to the online teaching what we are giving, or they don't have the proper gadgets for it. Now, how to go about it, sir? Like, I would like to know, like, how do we tackle with the problem of such students, and how do we get through them?
Okay. Ankit, do I go?
Yes, sir. Please, please.
Yeah, Amrita ji. So my request is that let us confine this question to mapping the needs and resources that our children have. So for example, if we have few children who do not have access to technology at the micro level, there are many ways through which we can do it. Starting from, can we provide them a smartphone? Is there any resource? Maybe very audacious, but let us begin with that. Do they have phone which works on a voice SMS? Do we have a phone which works on WhatsApp? So let us find out what is the methodology through which we can reach them. If nothing else, can we prepare a learning kit for them and get it delivered at their home, or they can collect? We are on lockdown phase 2 now. So we have to, instead of making it a macro issue, at the micro level, map the need of each child, and is there any way we can do it? Let me bring in here a lot of innovative efforts. A teacher in the village in Jharkhand has set up loudspeakers in his village, and children come out with a mask and sit down and listen to the lessons. And there are 20 smartphones in the whole village, and children share it to send their queries to the teacher. So I'm not pontificating, Amrita. I hope you will pardon me for that. But we have to do something. But at the level of the government, let me tell you, the Swayam Prabha channel, the community radio, there are Diksha portal, I think Neha is expert on all those. So she will be able to tell that, but there are means and ways. But at the end of it, the sentiment that you are expressing, I'm 100% with you. And I will go to an extent further that we have to bring a level playing field and bring internet and technology and tools to the reach of each child. That should be the aim of the country.
I just want to share this wonderful initiative of my 75-year-old erstwhile English teacher. When I was her student and I connected with her just the past month, and I asked her, what are you doing nowadays? And she tells me that she is teaching English to underprivileged students by way of a smartphone. And she makes these small audio clips and sends it to the students. And then they make audio clips in return about their doubts, and then they send it to her. And that is how the entire teaching learning process of English is happening at 75 years of age. While this may sound like an extremely idealistic example of innovation and effort by a standalone individuals, but I am, an eternal optimist, and I would say that never underestimate the will of a teacher to teach. They will find a way, and even one smartphone can work wonders in a cluster of students. It's happening.
So, years back, IDEA gave that idea, right? The mobile school thing.
Yes.
I hope it's doing rounds these days.
Yes.
And there's one statement from Papri Ghosh ma'am, again from Oman, and a very senior, very veteran educationist. She says that where there's will, there's a way. Innovativeness is the key. And here I'll add something to this, what Papri ma'am said. So, we always have been talking about thinking out of the box. What I feel that it's time for us to start thinking as if there's no box. Why to even create a boundary of box for whatever reason, for whatever, purpose? Just think something which, anything random. It may click once, it may not click the other time, but what's the big deal? You can always try, you can always amend, you can always do. So as Edison also said when he failed, I think 1,000 times inventing that light bulb, that I've not failed 1,000 times. I've learned how many times that this thing won't work. Maybe, something new. So we just have to unleash ourselves. Let's not restrict ourselves. If we are passionate, if we are clear about what we really, really want to do and share with our children, रास्ते अपने आप निकल आते हैं. और यहाँ पर एक छोटा सा कपलेट जो कि काफी पुराना और क्लीशेड साउंड कर सकता है, पर मैं शेयर जरूर करना चाहूंगी कि कौन कहता है कि आसमां में सुराख नहीं हो सकता? कौन कहता है कि आसमां में सुराख नहीं हो सकता? एक तबीयत तो एक strategy तो तबीयत से try करो teachers. So with this, over to you, Ankit.
Thank
Can
you.
I-
Thank you.
Can I just share in
Please,
15
sir, please.
seconds what you're talking about, Neha, what you just said? We used to, in school, I used to have a teacher who was very innovative. And every time he made a mistake, he would stand up on the chair himself. Now, of course, in those days, students were made to stand on the chair for various errors and things like that. And every time he stood on the chair, we applauded. It's a different matter that he used to stand on the chair quite often and more than the students. And he only survived in that school for a year and had to move on. That's a different story. But that was an innovative way of connecting with the students and letting them know that, you know, we all in it together. We all in it together.
With this, it has triggered one very fond memory of mine. In my initial teaching years, there was this unit on trees in grade 9 book. So what I thought, and with the permission of my students, I decided that I'm going to do this chapter in the school lawns. Of course, we all went there. We had good time. We had question answers written on leaves, and I still treasure them. I still have them with me. And the best part was that I got a memo from my principal for creating indiscipline. And I love that. I cherish that one as well till date. So yeah, over to you, Ankit.
Great. So I believe a cup of tea is an excuse to share great thoughts with great minds. And I think we just did that. So as this discussion comes to an end, I would like to thank all the panelists for taking out time and making this an enriching discussion. It was an honor to have you all here with us. And thank you, Pratima ma'am. Thank you, Sarvesh sir. Thank you, Neha ma'am. Thank you, Ashok sir. Thank you, Kunal sir. It was really interesting to listening to your views. A lot of insights I'm taking from this particular webinar, and I'm sure our audience would also be feeling the same. I would like to thank all the lovely audiences out there for joining us. Please follow us on Facebook to know more about the details of the upcoming webinars. Once you just exit from the webinar, there will be a feedback also appearing on your screen. Please share your valuable feedback, which will help us in making our webinars more interesting and more webinars with more takeaways. The next webinar is scheduled on 10th of July from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. So don't forget to register. Use the link given on our FB page. Our FB page link has been shared in the chat with you all. Thank you once again. Wish you all a great evening. Stay home, stay safe, and stay connected. So thank you, Pratima ma'am. Thank you, Sarvesh sir. Thank you, Neha ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kunal sir. It was a pleasure.
Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you, and well done. And Neha, well done. You weaved it all very well.
Thank you. I mean, I'm learning from Ashok sir. I can say this now, right? And from all of you, thank you very much. It was pleasure, and
Absolutely.
look forward for more of it. Thank you very much.
Bye. And
Bye.
thank you to all the fellow panelists. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really enjoyed being here with you.
And to Ankit for all the temptations with tea. Next time, let's make it coffee also.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Stay safe.